So we are approaching the end of the year. That's why students are otherwise engaged and they are unable to attend the classes. So we have here, I think, Chandini, then Purna, Alisa. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how many of us are present here? Hello. It's going to be 5:10, so you must start, otherwise our course will not be completed. So we are discussing community-based Cbdm, what we are called the disaster. I have already introduced to the topic, but there are certain principal strategies and challenges of Cbdm, community-based disaster management. So what are the principles of community-based disaster management? So one is planning, implementation, and management by community-led or local champions. So the community will be central to the strategy of disaster mitigation or disaster management. Then we have intervention start from locally available resources, locally available capacities, and locally available leaders. That means earlier what was happening, earlier state was leading, bureaucracy was leading, other state was leading. So when we accepted this approach after experiences from Philippines and Japan, then we started in last 20 years that communities should take the lead in disaster mitigation or disaster management. Then choices are to be decided by the communities. Programs focus on developing local capacities, not imposed from top. Then disaster preparedness approves from a developmental perspective. That means it must be sustainable to continue after a disaster. Then sustainability considered as an underlying factor, attention to special vulnerable groups. So these are the general principles of what happened. So this should continue. That is the principles. Then what are the strategies of CBDM, community-based disaster management? So the strategies are just I will highlight the major points in each chapter so that we can cover up to 13 and 14. Then we have total 17 chapters, I think, in this paper. So tomorrow is the last class so that we can give a finishing touch to all the chapters or give justice to all the chapters. Then these are the principles of CBDM. Then what are the strategies? I have already told you what CBDM is, that is community-based disaster management. Then what are the strategies? Strategies are public awareness. That means we must communicate with the local people or the community. There must be proper communication between the government agencies or disaster management agencies and the communities, so that they can be made aware. They can be, or we can create awareness among them about the role, about their capacities, about their involvement, about their commitment, and about their mobilization. Next is there should be research and documentation of the capacities, of their vulnerability, of their mobilizing capacities, of the resources, etc. So community must know what capacity they have, what strength or resources they have, and what weaknesses they have. What are the vulnerable points? Then there can be a preparation by themselves or under the leadership of the community to challenge the disaster or to mitigate the disaster or to manage the disaster. Then we have this capacity building measures. That means we need to upgrade the existing capacities of the community. Whatever capacity they have, that needs to be improved. That is one of the major strategies. Then, I may give you some example. If it is not understandable to you, or you are unable to understand what capacity building. Suppose we have to make microfinance, give them microfinance, or financial aid, or cash aid, or other than the reliefs. What we are doing normally, we are giving reliefs and returning out. So state agencies or non-government agencies, what they are doing when there is a disaster, we just distribute reliefs. Their temporary problems are solved for 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, or months together in a severe flood or severe cyclone. Then after that, we'll return, the government agency will return, or the relief giving agencies will return, government or non-government. Then their long-term problems remain unresolved. That's why if you give them cash or money or soft loan or microfinance, then they can build themselves. They can rebuild themselves. So that is what is important so far this capacity building is concerned. Then networking. There must be networking. What is networking? There must be social networking, there must be civil engagement, trust. That means networking among the communities. Then we have sustainability. That means this program must continue. It is not that for one project it will continue, then after the end of the project this program will discontinue. No, the programs for involvement of communities or the centrality of the communities in disaster management should continue. Then what are the requirements of Cbdm? If we want a community-based disaster management, then what are the requirements? First thing, preparedness. What is preparedness? We must have pre-preparedness. That is mock drill. Suppose there is a fire, you must be observing the mock drills of fire main or fire stations. That means if there will be a fire, then what will happen? We observe many times in the different cities that firemen come and have a mock drill. You understand mock drill? There is a drill, and that is not actual drill. That is a preparatory drill. So we must have exercises or of first aid. First, community members or local people should exercise earlier. They must be trained earlier how to give a first aid, how to give injection, how to make bandage in case of a fracture. Suppose there is a collapse of a huge building, 10-story, 20-story building, or a fire in a building. So normally what will happen in that case? There will be fracture. There will be jumping by the men and women from top floors to save their lives. So if that will happen, what are the necessary first aid? If there is a cyclone, what are the necessary first aid? If there is a flood, what are the necessary first aid? So local communities, local people must be trained, and there must be a pre-exercise of giving first aid, training for first aid. Second, there must be temporary shelter, training on temporary shelter. How a tent can be settled, how a small house on tent temporarily can be settled in case of a serious fire or serious cyclone or flood, whatever may be the nature of the disaster. The immediate requirement is first aid. Second requirement is shelter. We must settle them in a temporary shed. So then we will give food. So they must be trained in that aspect. Then we have exercise in sanitation. Then what is the major problem? Suppose there is a flood. There is a every chance in flood and cyclone that waterborne diseases will be infected, or will be people will be infected from the waterborne diseases. So we need or to maintain sanitation. We need to maintain hygiene. So that is we need to have safe drinking water. So local communities must be trained how to maintain that, how to provide sanitation to the people. Then guided visit to risk sites. So what is guided visit? Suppose there is a volcanic eruption. So people should be sent to have a visit site and be trained or made aware that what are the possible dangers if there is a eruption of volcano or volcanic eruptions going outside 100 kilometer, 50 kilometer, or 200 kilometer. Then they must visit the coastal villages or belts. If there is a cyclone, what will be affected? Who will be affected? How they will be affected? So guided visits, they must visit the chemical plant. If there is a explosion in the chemical plant, what will happen? Who will the vulnerable groups? What are the possible risks? So these should be made aware to the people by guided visits by experts, right? And then there must be strengthening of the weak structure. They must identify what are the weak structures, and that must be strengthened. So these are the strategies, requirements of Cbdm. If you go by Cbdm, then these are the requirements that we need to have. If you need to have a community-based community-based disaster management. I think you understood this concept yesterday. I touched it, and again I explained what are the principles, strategies, and requirements of community-based uh, disaster management. Then you have case studies you can go through in the book. What are the different case studies? Normally, we have gone through the case of Philippines and Japan. In Philippines, we have seen that 70% of the people rescued from the disaster, from flood cyclone, are by the local people. So government agencies normally arrive late. Government agencies normally rescue with the help of the local people. So if local people are rescuing majority of the affected people and they are helping the agencies, why not they should lead this disaster management? They should be trained. They should be made. They should be empowered. So this is the plan of community-based disaster management. Then what is a community? Finally, I should have taught you or given the idea before this chapter. What is the meaning of community? What is the concept of community? I deliberately kept it to the last because I thought after explaining various aspects of this chapter, you will be able to understand what a community is at the last. So community is a group of people having a feeling of belongingness, that we are a group. This feeling of belongingness is the basis of a community. And another feeling is that our needs will be fulfilled if we will remain together. If we will remain as a group, then our needs, demands, and requirements will be fulfilled. Right? So let us go to the next chapter that is very important. In the coming chapters onwards, 10 to 17, you will find particular subjects, and that is very easier to understand, just to remember, not difficult. These are conceptual chapters till 9. So they are important. So next chapter is 10, that is search, rescue, and evacuation. You understand it very easily. What is search? When there is a tragedy or disaster or a hazard, suppose a building collapsed, or there is a fire in the building. What is the primary step? First important job is to search the victim, search the affected people, search the injured people, search the dead people. So you will find living people first because they have to be rescued. Their life has to be saved. Those who are dead, they are dead. It's all right. But those who are not dead and they are crying for help, or there is a chance that if there will be late, their life may not be saved. So immediate job is to search. Then rescue. Rescue, we have to rescue that person. Then evacuate. In a mass form, it is evacuation. Suppose there is a flood, there is a cyclone, thousands of people have evacuated from this affected area to a safer place. This is called search, rescue, and evacuation. So there is a light search method where there is a moderate injury or moderate damage. There is a light search method or light search and rescue. But in a serious matter, what is the objective? If there is a serious cyclone, serious flood, serious disaster in building collapse or fire fighting or chemical disaster, so the objective is to save maximum lives possible immediately. Whatever possible, maximum lives can be saved. So that is most important. So how these lives can be saved? So what are the requirements after disaster? First is you need medical aid. Second is you need water and food. Third is shelter, as I have told in the previous chapter, temporary shelter. Then sustainable supplies. You need supplies for the life-saving supplies. Then health and sanitation. Then information is most important. Then security. So there are different phases of search and rescue operation. There is an immediate stage. Then there is able to contact the unreachable. Immediate stage is to arrive at a place when there is a living being. A man is living. You have to rescue him. Then you have to find contact the unreachable person, where they are, how to contact them, how to reach them. If there is a debris in a collapsed building, you have to find a way inside the debris to reach a people, to identify them. Then next stage is likely survival points. Where you find where are the survival points, where people should have been saved or should have been there with their lives or with their living being. So these are the requirements that we need, and we need a proper planning, and we need a proper map. So you need a map of the building, you need entry point and exit point, and you need who is a rescuer, whether he is in an individual group or collective group, part of the collective group. part of the group or individual person, he must first know how he would rescue himself, how would he would escape himself if there is a tragedy, repeat of tragedy, or again there is a collapse. That is most important. Then we need logistics or methods. You need evacuation map, what I said. You need a hammer. You need a hammer. What is a hammer? You need screwdriver. You need torch. So you need a helmet. You need hard shoes. That is a gun boot. You gun boot. You tell you have seen that. Then you need extra batteries, matches, maybe candle, even if a torch sometimes does not function, so what will do? Then axe, spade, hand gloves, dust mask, helmet I have told. So these are the basic requirements for a rescuer if he is going there. So two types of rescuing. One is single, another is double. And you have seen this self-defense mechanism. Suppose there is a fire and one people you are going to rescue. What will do? And there is a ladder. So you will put that person, injured person, if his leg is broken, on your back. Then you slowly come down. Or if there is a this ladder inside the house, then you tag his body through a towel or a rope. You have to carry a 50-foot rope minimum. That is the guideline given by different agencies. You need a 50-foot rope, 50 foot dodi, to rescue persons in case of a collapse of the building or fire in the building. That is a rescue method. So, but if you are in a group, then that will be easier. So, better to avoid go alone for a rescue. If that is only in case of emergency. So, if locally people, available people can be trained, they are out of the building. Suppose there is a fire in a huge building in Bombay or Calcutta or whatever it may be, and the nearby houses, nearby people surrounding these buildings, they are aware of the exit point and entry points. So when the fireman arrives there or other experts arrive there, they may not get the entry. They may not get the exit point. They may not know the where are the doors and where are the windows inside. So local people know them. So if local people are trained and with the help of the experts, the rescue operation, search operation will be more easier. That is what the purpose of CBT, right? Or search and rescue operation and evacuation. Then you have good rescuer. What are the techniques of a good rescuer? So he must have the technical ability. He must have some common sense. What do you mean by common sense? So there is a saying in our village, ତାଙ୍କର ବହୁତ ଜ୍ଞାନ ଅଛି ସାଧାରଣ ଜ୍ଞାନ ନାହିଁ. So you need to apply common sense. You don't have to be very knowledgeable or expert in these difficult times. So you need common sense. So single man's method, there is fireman's lift, human crutch. Crutch, you know, PK, back, you will bring the man over the back, staircase drag, fireman's crawl, tow drag. These are the names of different types of method used by a single man. And if you double, two man's operation rescue, then there are fore and aft, two hand seat, there are positions. There are positions in which you rescue the persons. I cannot explain you because we need graphing in blackboard. I just telling you the different methods, and you can understand that. Okay, carry chair, you can put chair and take a person, older person. Then knots and lines, you can tie a knot, you can bring them over, hand knot and thumb knot, figure of right, reap knot, chair knot, different types of knots, half hitch, claw hitch. So these are the different types or models or methods of rescuing people. uh, so that's why you need to be trained. That means rescuer must be trained. Third is he must have a directional sense. He must not be any rescuer. When he is in operation of rescuing people, he must not lose the direction. He must have a clear thought, clear idea what is going on, what to do. He must take a decision. That means he must have the capacity to decision. He cannot ask anybody in which way I will go, in which method I will rescue that person. So he must be knowledgeable and must have a terrible common sense to go ahead. So evacuation is a mass education. Then evacuation. Then he must have the physical capacity. He must have the mental ability, mental judging capacity or mental ability. Then he can be a successful man or rescuer in a crisis situation. So that is the behavioral requirement of a rescuer, and we can define him as a good rescuer or successful rescuer. Then you have rescue kit. I have already told you. And then you have this making evaluation plan as follows: how this plan can be, and there must be mock drills before that. How a plan of rescue can be made. That means there must be mock drill by the fire people or involving local people. So next chapter is this is all that we have. In totality, this is about rescue, search, and evacuation. Rescue can be done in a single manner, in a double manner, in a group manner. And these are the tools or kits or instruments required for rescue and search. And people should be like this or trained like this. They must have a good mentality, commitment, courage, decision making capacity, skill, etc. Right? The next is 11 temporary shelter, warehousing, and stockpiling. Temporary shelter, tent, ଆମେ ଯୋଉ କଣ ତମ୍ବୁ ବାନ୍ଧିଦବା ତମ୍ବୁ anybody cannot do ଆମେ ତମକୁ କହିଲେ ତମ୍ବୁ ବାନ୍ଧି ପାରିବାନି immediately. So the trained people can set up a tent, temporary tent within hours. ଗୋଟାଏ ଘଣ୍ଟା ଭିତରେ ଅଧଘଣ୍ଟା ଭିତରେ 15 minutes ଭିତରେ military people can set tents. ସାଙ୍ଗେ ସାଙ୍ଗେ tent ପକେଇଦେବେ. So this is a capability. If you don't have a tent, manufactured tent, ତିଆରି ହେଇଥିବା tent ନାହିଁ, then how will you manage that? You must be trained about that. So that is temporary shelter. Every disaster has the urgent requirement of temporary shelter. After disaster, people need to be rescued from that disaster site and be placed in a temporary shelter. ଗୋଟେ ଅସ୍ଥାୟୀ ଗୃହ ବା ବାସସ୍ଥାନ ଭିତରେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ରଖିବାଟା that is most important. ସେଇ training ଦରକାର. That is temporary shelter. Second is stock piling or warehouse. ଯୋଉଠି ରହିବ ଜିନିଷ, relief material ରହିବ. That must be recorded. Record ଖାତା ରହିବା ଦରକାର. That must be clean. That must be well maintained. And that must be well organized. So normally we face such a situation in our homes that we don't find a book, a note or a key or anything in our houses. ଘର ଭିତରେ ଆମେ ବହୁତ ସମୟ ଜିନିଷ ପାଆନ୍ତିନି because of disorganizing. And office ରେ we don't find a file. That is organizing. So if you cannot find a torch or a battery or a candle or relief material, whatever it may be in a warehouse, when there is a disaster, suppose there is a severe cyclone hit the land and damage is done. So next, before one day, you have to bring these relief materials, pack them, divide them, and immediately rush after when it is cooled down, the cyclone is cooled down, and there is a possibility of movement. The relief team has to move urgently in a speed manner to reach the people, and you are unable to find your goods required for the relief in the warehouses. So that is what we need: a organized warehouse. ଯୋଉ warehouse ଅର୍ଥ କଣ? ଯୋଉ ମାନେ କଣ ଗୋଦାମ ଘର। ତାକୁ ସଂଗଠିତ ରଖିଲେ ଜିନିଷକୁ ତମେ ଲାଷ୍ଟରେ ପାଇପାରିବ. That is most important. So we need a planning, temporary shelter, and this is as per the guiding of ADPC, ASEAN Development Planning. So what are the problems? What are the preventions? That is most important. I'm just giving you some ideas about that from this one. If there is a possibility of overcrowding, there is a problem. What will do? Preventive indications: high rate of influx into confined area. So there is a limited area. Many people will enter into that. There is a possibility of stampede. So how this can be prevented? What will be the preventive strategy? For contemporary planning, you negotiate suitable sites with government before influx occurs. So you must find what are the exit points, entry points by discussing with the government agencies how they can be entry can be streamlined. Suppose lakhs of people are standing to enter into a temple. So if you allow them at a time, then what will happen? People will not be disciplined on their own. So there will be stampede and killing of so many people. So if you have to prevent them, you have to make 4 or 5 entry points, 4 or 5 exit points. There must be sufficient space for the movement. Then you keep in them queue, line. Then you can have 3, 4, 5 lines. As you see in many important temples where there is a rush. During Ratha Yatra, you have seen the management, very good management of Ratha Yatra crowd in Odisha, in Puri. In Andhra, that is the famous temple where there is a huge crowd. Then you have so many religious places in India where you can find good management of the crowd. Then exposure. If there is exposure, what will do? That is provisions of suitable shelter, stockpile of additional blankets. Suppose there is severe cold. So you need to prevent cold. Exposure means exposure to the cold. Then you can relocate the population from the cold area to a warmer area. That you can plan. Then domestic violence. If there is a communal riot, civil war, etc. So there is overcrowding, lack of privacy, violence. What will do? So you meet minimum space standards, provide at least visual privacy, etc. Would plan for that. If there is fire, what will happen? Overcrowding. People will rush. If site two area too small, people cannot exit. Dry, windy weather conditions. So what will do? Provide fire breaks between structures. That means structure is so divided, fire cannot enter into another building or of the in the same building one floor to another floor. That is called fire breaks. So this is a new building plan where there will be fire breaks. Fire will not enter from one place to another place, even in one building. Suppose four, five stories are there. So if there is a fire in one story, one floor, it will not catch to another floor. So there is some management of fire breaks between buildings, inside buildings, outside buildings, etc. Then water, if there is flood. So these are the possibilities of dangers and what steps we can take. And then technical structural problems, shelter location, rebuilding of the same location, relocating the entire settlement. I am just reading out the points. Hello. No. So these are the plans for a or standard setting plans what we require for prevention of disasters. Then you have community participation. I have already explained in detail about community participation, and I need not again go to details into that. So this is community participation. Then we can go to the next chapter. Uh, that is distribution of relief material. So you understand everything about the distribution of relief material. Have you ever experienced relief in your lifetime, whether normally flood or cyclone? You have not seen the relief operation. Is anybody aware of relief operation? Have seen relief operation in their area? If you are from Kendrapada, Jaspur, Kotak, Jagatsinghpur, Paradip, etc., you must have seen how relief is distributed. What are the steps in relief distribution? So it is not that you give 1 kg chuda, 1 kg rice, or it is not like that. It's a very scientific management, planned management. So what we need for that? We need for that planning for relief distribution. What to be distributed? How to be distributed? When to be distributed? Whom to be distributed? So these questions are crucial in relief distribution. Number one. Number two, establishment of early warning systems. That means if there is early warning system and if you can know that after 3 days cyclone is hitting the or making a landfall in Ganjam or Kotak or Puri, then what will do? Before 3 days, you will have a proper plan. You have seen in television in Odisha that there is packeting of relief material. So before 3 days, manpower is mobilized. Hundreds of people are have come. They are made into groups, 10 by 10 or 5 by 20, etc. So these groups are engaged in packeting relief material. So what are the types of relief material? Cooked food, dry food. Kitchen food means you have a longer or kitchen and people are given food instantly. Then there are dress materials, books, medicines, water bottles, etc. So first thing is you have this planning for materials, and then you must have a early warning system so that you can prepare yourself scientifically in a very planned manner for relief distribution. Then you must have a liaison or coordination with the district level agency. You have a liaisoning with district collector and his officials to move into the district, which places you have to move, where to move, when to move, etc. And what is the need of the help of the district administration to provide police personnel or other personnel in guiding you to a particular place. Then planning with the population at risk. So those who are risky groups, those who are at risk actually, you must sit with them and have a plan. Then you will have a very good local knowledge. Then you must have a local contact person. You must have today we have phone. Earlier you did not have phones. So we must have a list of contact persons, whom to contact in case of emergency. You have to contact police, you have to contact a health personnel, you have to contact a district administration, local administration, you have to contact elected local body, sarpanch, ward member, etc. You have to contact teacher, school teacher, their voluntary organization, Anganwadi Didi. So these are the agencies that you need to contact during relief operation. Without their cooperation, your relief operation will not be pursued. So if relief person with the involvement of the people and you are engaged in relief operation, then you must have the contact of these persons. Today, it is the phone. Then pre-stocking. You need to stock the relief material earlier. It is not that you will buy from the market and go to the relief. There is a flood in Puri or Ganjam. You will buy from Bhubaneswar market 100 kg of chuda, 200 kg of rice, or 500 packets of biscuits. Then it is not available in the market, or it is a black market at a higher price. So you need to stock the training and education, and you need next is mapping. I have explained mapping. So that is classification. What we need? What are the hazards? What are the availability of matters? Who are the people? What is the road? What is the transport system? What is the communication system? What is the district level arrangement? What is the taluka level, block level arrangement, or state level arrangement, national level arrangement? So these are the mm, mapping of resources and weaknesses. Then types of reliefs. You have feeding programs. Feeding program means you have to give food to the affected people in their place by cooking. That is called feeding program. ସେଇଠି ରୋଷେଇ କରି ଖାଇବାକୁ ଦବ ରନ୍ଧା ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଦିଆଯିବ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ ରୋଷେଇ ହଉଥିବ ଲୋକ ଆସି ଖାଇବେ ସପୋଜ ଫ୍ଲଡ୍ ଏଣ୍ଟାୟାର ଭିଲେଜ is inundated, they are unable to cook their own food, so you have to have a temporary kitchen there and cook food and distribute among the people, or people will come and have their food. This is called feeding programs. General feeding, supplementary feeding, and this therapeutic feeding, right? Then distribution of dry ration. You know dry ration, dal, rice, etc. If they have cooking facilities, they can you can provide dry ration by serving it door to door. So you go and distribute them as per the requirement. Then distribution of cooked food. You cook somewhere else at a place somewhere else other than the affected area. Then you pack them. Then you distribute them. And if not possible to reach them, then you airdrop them, either dry fruits or biscuits or cooked foods, whatever it may be. That is called distribution of cooked food. That you know, I need not explain kitchen ହବା ଦରକାର କେତେ ଲୋକ 100 ଲୋକଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ କେତେ ଇଏ ପାଇଁ କେତେ ସେ ପାଇଁ କେତେ. You need not go into details into that. How you packaging will be done. Earlier, these are common senses, and we are experts in Odisha in the management because we have a rich experience from a long period of time how to manage relief operations scientifically, and we have very successful story all over the world. Japan has, Cuba has, Philippines have, America also have, and every country now have, and we are training other countries also. So distribution of other material. What are the other material? Clothes, matches, candle, water bottle, etc. So what are the distribution centers? Time, point, process, these are important. How much time will take? Where are the points from where you will distribute? And process. In what process? I have explained this process. Cooked food, dry fruit, these are the processes, right? Then you have logistics. Logistic, you know, this is, you have to, how you will go? What are the requirements? You need a vehicle. If vehicle is not moving, then you need a boat. If there is a flood area, suppose there is a flood area and the roads are flooded, inundated, how you will move? Then you need boats. You can hire the local boats and you can go there. So you have to plan. What are that is logistic support. Then transport by road or transport by helicopter or transport by rail or transport by water, whatever available, you can go. So what are the possible problems in relief administration? There may be a conflict of different agencies. You are going, they are going, they are going with the same material. Suppose everybody is going with food, but they need clothes, they need candles, they need kerosene, they need other requirements, but you have not done. So there must be coordination among different agencies, and requirement must be identified and mapped, then they be supplied. So conflict of different agencies. Then determination of responsibility and establishment of procedures. That is a problematic area that must be cleared. It is often difficult for the recipients of unsolicited response to refuse it. That is a problem area. Then there is problem of scarcity and plenty. As I have already told you, some are hugely available and some are not available. Scarcity. Then aid must not be politicized. So there is a politicization of relief material everywhere, particularly in Odisha and India, where there is a relief. Opposition parties say they are not giving relief, they are taking away. There is huge corruption. And ruling parties or those who are in government, they will say we are distributing, opposition is opposing for opposition's sake. So there must not be politicization of relief operation, relief material and relief project. So otherwise it will create problem and for the people engaged in relief operation. Then next is that is chapter 13. That is emergency operation center. That means you have heard the term control room. When there is a flood, you see there is a control room in Bhubaneswar Secretariat, and a senior officer to the rank of principal secretary or additional chief secretary or special relief commissioner is in charge of that control room. And you have 4, 5, 6, 10 phone numbers available to you, both landline and mobile, and you can contact from the affected area to them that this is our requirement. Sir, serious flood has happened, come to our village, our roads are inundated, flooded, we are kept inside our homes, or we are on the roof of a pakka house. We don't have food since last 12 hours or 24 hours. There are women, there are weak people, old people, patients, small children. So this is the emergency requirement that we need. Why there is a requirement of this emergency operation center or control room, whatever name you tell. So, in case of an emergency, suppose there is a serious cyclone, flood, earthquake, fire, etc., we need a national control room or national emergency operation center. That means what happens? There are different agencies engaged in relief operation. So there is no coordination among them. There is a conflict of work, doubling of work, multiplication of work. Same work is done by different people, different agencies, different organizations. And nobody is capable of taking a major decision. What will they do? So the government opens a control room or emergency center in which three major tasks are carried out. One is coordination. The coordination must be done by this center with different agencies, different groups of people, affected people, district agency, local government, block development officer, collector, etc., etc., etc. Those who are involved or their services are required. And they give clear direction that you should do this. Second is timing. In what time they have to do. Timing is very crucial. If you delay, in case of a fire by 2 hours, 3 hours, many lives will be lost. So timing is important, and this emergency operation center, USC, or control room, they direct that you have to move. NDRF team should move 24 hours ahead, before one day, so that they reach the spot. And they will rush within 2-3 hours to the affected area after landfall of a cyclone, suppose, or after the flooded area. Then this is the second job. Third job is direction or decision. So they have to take a clear decision what to do or what not to do, what should be done and what should not be done, right? So this is a multi-agency coordination system, and we need the emergency operation center particularly, and the features are flexibility, sustainability, and security. So what is flexibility? The USC or the control room has to be very flexible to adapt to the situation. Suppose water is rising over a dam. We don't know whether dam will be broken or not, whether there will be over flooding over the dams or water will enter the villages or not. Suppose at 12 a.m. or late at night, 3 a.m. in the night, there will be flood or dam was washed away by the flood water. What will happen? So they have to adapt to the situation. They have to keep their human resources, keep their technical experts, keep their communication system in a very prepared manner. That is most important, flexibility. Second is security. So the communication system and the important informations that must be secured. This will not leak to the other agencies which are not concerned with that, or to the public. That is confidential matter. Then sustainability. This should continue. Then we have another important aspect of this UOC or character of UOC is survivability. They must survive effects of a realized risk. If there is criticism or if there is a failure, they must survive or overcome that failure. Interoperability. That means it will coordinate with other agencies. Interoperability. So, what are the objectives of these emergency centers or these control rooms? Emergency operation, communication, warning, requesting additional resources to the during the disaster from neighboring areas or other agencies, coordinating overseas support and aid from foreign countries if necessary, issuing emergency information. So these are important objectives of a information system. Then you have this. They must be 24/7 available. That means throughout the day or throughout the night, they must be available. Then they must have damaging assessment. Their damage must be assessed. And then there is another called, you can write it down. This is ICS, Incident Command System. Incident Command System. This is like a UOC. That means it must have the command, a capability of commanding during emergencies. So whenever incident occurs, notification is sent to the staff. Status is evaluated by the USO managers. USO is activated. Tasks are assigned according to plan. So this is the pre-planning of emergency operation systems. That is command system. Then organizational setup of UOC. How normally, ideally, UOC and their organization can be set up. One is UOC in charge, a senior officer. Then he is the main key person who will decide. Then operation section, handle request for emergency personnel, equipment, other resources. They must be prepared and they must be available throughout the day and night. In a shift also, one cannot sit for 24 hours. Then if somebody is sitting for 6 hours or 8 hours, then he or she will be replaced by another person. This should continue. Designate responsibility and duties for the managers of EOC, then manage storage, handling, and setup of incoming equipment and personnel. Suppose NDRF team is coming. They came in 4 or 5 battalions. So this EOC control room must decide where they have to go, how many people have to go. That is a major decision. Then they have to ensure medical care, feeding, and housing of EOC personnel. Then maintain documentation of resources and allocation and availability. Then manage finances. So they are the basic jobs of or line of organization of UOC. Then what are the jobs or works or departments involved in it in UOC? Who are the departments who are involved in UOC? The information communication department, health department, transport department, public works department, home department, defense department, agriculture, livestock, rural urban development department, this panchayat raj department, urban local body department, irrigation department, finance, and any other department depending on the nature of disaster, right? So these are the common, almost all important key departments of a government are involved in emergency operation center, right? So what are the staff? We have a special relief commissioner. So normally he remains in charge of emergency operation center, gives some charge to others. So that is the normal system in Odisha and also in other parts of the country. Then non-disaster time activities of the issue. When there is not a disaster, what are the activities of this emergency center? So they monitor, they provide information, they provide data, they provide suggestions from field studies, from researches, from their experiences, they document them. Then they plan for a future. What are the drawbacks? In what way they have failed? How this failure cannot be repeated? So their experience is very important due to non-disaster time. When there is not a disaster, it is not that they will be sitting or they will be engaged in other jobs. It's not like that. They will prepare a plan for future disasters. How the casualties or damages made in the first disaster uh, can be managed or cannot be repeated. How casualty will be zero and how it will be managed. So then we have this. I cannot think I can go to the next chapter because we cannot finish that. It is already going to be 5. So we'll do 55. So next is damage assessment. Actually, as I have already told you, same things have been repeated in different times, but they need to be there to have a complete chapter. You know damage. What are the possible damages in a flood? Roads are damaged, buildings are damaged, thatched houses are damaged, crops are damaged, school building, education institutions, or community building are damaged. So these are the common damages in a flood. So how damage will be assessed? Government agents will go, they will assess the cost of damage. Then in toto, suppose Odisha will assess in terms of finance money. We say we have a damage of 5,000 crore rupees. So we are requesting central government to provide aid to Odisha. So this demand for some thousands of crores of rupees comes out of the damage assessment. So in any disaster management, damage assessment is very crucial, and it must be scientific and objective. It is not that one leader will go and move or one officer will go and move and say that we need 100 crores of rupees or 200 crores of rupees. It is not like that. So what are the features of damage assessment? So this is converting raw data into useful information. We have a raw data, how roads are damaged, how many kilometers of roads are damaged, who are badly damaged. Suppose these bridges have damaged. So you have to identify this is raw data, and then it will be transferred into a proper information, scientific information or discipline information. Then converting raw data, information input. So we got the information. Sorting, that is classifying the different kinds of data. What is reliable and what is unreliable. Then evaluation, we evaluate what is the cost of this data, the damage. Then decision making. We have to decide which is what are the levels of damage. Then information output and action. Next, finally, we have to act. We have to give information. This is the extent of damage. This is the cost of damage. This is the valuation of damage. Then there will be demand from agencies. So what is the need of damage assessment? Why should we assess the damage? Because there are several aspects to it. First is we must know. We means suppose there is damage in Odisha. Odisha must know. Odisha government must know. Odisha state must know what is the extent of damage. What is the cost of damage? So that there will be plan, there will be budget, there will be manpower, there will be other necessary requirements to restore damage, to manage damage, or to go for reconstruction, go for development. So if a road is damaged, it is not that it will continue. Road has to be repaired. If it is not repairable, then a new road has to be constructed. So what will the cost? Two things are there. The cost of the damage is assessed, and the cost of the new reconstruction or repair, whatever it may be, it will be assessed. So road was built 2 or 3 or 5 years back, a pakka road or pitch road or concrete road. If it is damaged in a flood, it is not that the same cost will incur for the repair of the or reconstruction of the road. There will be more cost. So this cost assessment is very important for reconstruction. So we need a damage assessment for reconstruction, number one. Number two, we need damage assessment to get funds from other agencies, from national agencies or international agencies. Then we need assessment for planning, future planning. Then we need assessment for alternate possible projects. So if this road is damaged in a flood, we must build roads which cannot be damaged by a flood. We have a pakka road, we have a kacha road, or we have a concrete road. So these roads are damaged in a flood. So how can we build roads which will not be damaged by the flood? So that will be engineering plan or technical plan, so that if in future, if there will be a flood, it will not be damaged. Then we have crops. How crops can resist this more water? There are certain crops which grow in more water. So if you adopt those crops during that period, then even if there is a flood, those crops will not be damaged. So for these 2-3 objectives, we need damage assessment. So damage assessment is very important, right? There is rapid damage assessment and detailed damage assessment. So if you want to give relief in terms of cash to the people whose houses have been damaged, partial damage, full damage, minor damage, they will get some money, 5,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 20,000, etc. If a farmer's crop is damaged in a flood or cyclone, he will get some money. So for that purpose, rapid damage assessment is done. Immediately officers rush to the affected area and damage quickly. Then type of damages: loss to the main building, loss to the failure of components, area covered by the collapsed structure, death or injury, loss incurred in terms of debris, uh, loss of revenue. This is regarding the building. Then damage to land, area damaged per household, production, loss of hectare, loss per hectare, loss per household, impact on human lives, total number of sample household, etc. So how damage assessment can be done in different sectors? What are the possible sectors in different disasters? Agriculture is that fishery, dairy farm, your cows are destroyed or killed in the cyclone or flood, that is in dairy. In fishery, your boat is destroyed, your net is destroyed, non-agricultural labor, artisans, business, trade, service, and others. It covers almost all aspects where there is the involvement of livelihood. People's livelihood have been damaged, and that we need for damage assessment. Then there are two kinds of reports. One is interim report, another is final report. Interim report is given during damage assessment. After the final assessment, there will be a final report. Then housing settlement. There is an example from Indonesia. You need not do that because we have experiences in Odisha and India. So why should you go for Indonesia? But there are examples you can go for. So lastly, we have this 15, 16, and 17 chapter. Rehabilitation and reconstruction, disaster and development is the last chapter, I think. That we can complete in tomorrow's class. It is already 5, I think. 5, 5. So, am I right, Chandni?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, can I leave? Okay. So, enjoy your end. Uh, Tomorrow we'll finish, right? So, I
Yes,
was
sir.
in actually doubt whether I will continue because today and tomorrow, I was in doubt whether I will be available or not because there is a TV debate on this reservation for students in government of government schools for engineering and medical sciences. Because I could not go, so I thought I should complete your class. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So, how many
Thank you,
people
sir.
are there in the class? How many people are there in the class now, right now? Can you tell me?
The four are there.
Four, sir.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.